Gonna move that over. Okay, so as usual, I'd like to welcome everyone to Not at the Museum Thursday nights. And we always like to begin our programming with a land acknowledgement. So, the Niagara region of Ontario is located on the traditional shared territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Chinatan peoples. The Chinatan people have called these lands home for thousands of years, and more recently, the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee have been sharing the land as one dish, one spoon treaty territory. Tonight, the museum brings you our third digital coming out story. This is our second year of running the Coming Out Story series, which are evening designed for the LGBTQ plus and straight communities alike. Each night, we welcome a different special guest or guests to share their personal experiences coming out to their families and communities. And I'm thrilled that the museum has been seen as an ally and a safe space to help facilitate these much needed conversations in the Niagara region. Please note this program offers an open dialogue about gender and sexuality, and there may be references of a sexual nature during the conversation. Without further ado, I would love to introduce the person responsible for these series, whose tireless efforts have brought some of the most beautiful and thought-provoking programs into the museum. Tonight's host, Falynn Shaw, who is joining us from home tonight. Good evening, Falynn.
Good evening, Christine. Thank you so much. Yes, everyone, I am at home, Mikasa. Uh, Unfortunately, with the COVID chapters, there are some restrictions, so I'm going to be staying home. And we also have our guests who are in their homes as well. I would like to introduce to you Ian and Noah from the band Saint Stone. They are two of the members. There are three members. Lyran Lidstone is also the drummer. Am I correct? She's not here this evening, but we have the two main who are here, and we're really excited to talk to you guys tonight.
Yeah, thanks for
I
having
want
us.
to I want to share a little bit about how we all met. Um, it goes back to last year when we were still allowed to meet in person, the Trans Day of Remembrance. I, with some other organizers, put together an event, and your band was volunteered, and you guys came in and you played the show out, and it was an amazing experience to see you live. And I knew right from then, like, good things are going to happen to your band. You guys have great sound, and I think you have good heads on your shoulders for what you want to do. So I really love that I'm able to interview you guys because I am a fan of your music. Uh, the sound would say, you would say, like a punk indie grunge sound that you have going. I get a little bit of the emo in there sometimes. I
Hmm.
love that.
Yep.
Gives me some nostalgia.
Yes.
Um, I also wanted to talk about a little bit about how you guys are staying active in your band. I just wanted to ask that question through what's going with COVID, and then I'm going to hand it over to the two of you.
Sure. Yeah, COVID obviously has put a damper on a lot of arts organizations and theater companies and bands, anybody really involved in the arts. And so people are really having to figure out ways to do the thing. We've been really lucky that we've had a lot of opportunities to do online performances. Um, we've done a couple shows. We performed at the Performing Arts Center in August, and we did a Culture Day show that aired middle of October. So we've been really lucky that we've sort of been able to go virtual with some stuff. Um, Us really connecting and rehearsing hasn't really been a consistent thing during this time. We've all sort of been within the same bubble, which has helped. So when we've had shows, we've been able to go to a rehearsal space and do the thing in person. Otherwise, we've just sort of been laying low. I've been writing a bit, noodling around on some stuff, and we've been sharing ideas, but COVID definitely has made it difficult for sure.
One thing I noticed when you played at third space, you didn't even really have a chance to practice a bit. You just kind of jumped in there. It wasn't even Liren's kit. The sound was less than amazing, but you guys just, I feel like you have a really natural connection, the three of you playing, and to me it sounded flawless. So I'm glad that you're still staying motivated and inspired and working on stuff.
Thank you. Yeah.
Who would like to go first and share a bit about their story?
Yeah, I'll jump in and go first.
Okay.
Um, I feel I feel as though I've been coming out for the last decade. So I came out as a lesbian when I was 18, and that was its own thing. That was sort of my introduction to the LGBT community. It wasn't until I was, I think, in my early 20s that I saw trans men living their lives, that I met Noah actually, and that was sort of the catalyst for me coming to terms with being trans and coming out and finding community. So I'm now 28, so quite literally, it's been a decade of coming out in various capacities, and um, queer folks are always coming out. Like I'm always coming out in my life. Um, so yeah, that's a bit of a Spark Notes version of my journey. Um, I'm very grateful to have family support and have a really supportive friend network, and I'm finding more and more community here in Niagara, which has been really awesome.
Yeah, I've almost had the same trajectory, which is really interesting. Um, so, what I love about the coming out stories with the two of us is we've had the opportunity to come out twice in our life, which is an odd privilege. So, it was the same kind of thing. I took a long time processing who I was. I didn't really have a lot to go on. I didn't have a lot of resources at the time for both times I came out. So I kind of stumbled my way into my identities. So I did come out as lesbian as well, pretty much around the same age, around 18. Um, and something still wasn't quite right. And also met trans folks when I was a little bit more into my 20s. So I did start transitioning when I was 24. It was in 2014. I think I was 24 at that point. Um,
Did you, not to interrupt, but did both of you find that it really helped you identify as who you were by being able to see other people living their truth?
oh yeah,
And
Hmm.
that definitely made it feel more comfortable to be able to be who you really are?
absolutely.
Yeah, if I can jump in, Noah, it was me. Noah and I met years before we both came out as trans, and it's a funny meeting, but we ended up staying in contact for a while, and it was us reconnecting and me literally seeing Noah in the real world, living in his truth, embracing his identity, figuring it out, even if it was, him stumbling into it. It was me seeing somebody else doing it that I knew, that I was like, oh, this is a possibility. Like, that I can be this, and there's a future for me. The resources are here. And Noah was really like a tether, really kept me grounded in the beginning.
It's good. I'm glad that the two of you had each other for that time.
Yeah, it's funny how all that worked out. It's amazing being there for someone else because it literally is you looking to other folks, and it's so reliant on community. So I think meeting with people or just seeing people do the thing and live their life, and you can have this too. Like that happened with me with someone else. Years ago, I saw another trans person doing his thing, and I was like, wow, like I can achieve that.
Respect.
Yeah,
Respect.
yeah, and it
Hmm.
gives like some hope and some direction. Um, yeah, like I could talk for days about how it feels to be afraid and undecided. So yeah, seeing people do the thing gives you a lot of inspiration, a lot of hope. So it's amazing that I was able to provide that to Ian. Obviously, it made our connection much stronger, and we've been so close ever since.
I know that there is big connections when people are in bands together as well. You really have to trust each other because you're working together. So I think it really shows when you're playing music that there's that connection.
Hmm.
I also think it's important for shows like this so that, I mean, I've done the live shows. I had Mason Coates once, and then I had a couple parents that came up to me after, and they needed to see somebody living in their truth and doing well and graduating college and going on to their what they want to do because the parents were so scared that that wasn't going to be a possibility. So I love to show strong trans men, trans women, non-binary, anyone living in their truth because I think people need to see you guys to feel like they're not alone.
Totally. And when I was in preparation for today, I was thinking about Elliot Page coming out and all of the
Yeah.
support that he's received. And I was thinking back to me being a teenager and how confusing that was and how there really wasn't representation. And, I've come to realize I've known that I was trans since I was 3, but didn't have the language and didn't have the representation until I was in my late teens. And it was what they called the pregnant man, Thomas Beatty, who was like sensationalized and
I remember
fetishized.
this.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and that was the only frame of reference that I had for my identity. And so, it was great to see that as a possibility. I remember him discussing how he came out as a lesbian and that didn't feel quite right. And sort of bells started going off in my head. I was like, oh, someone else is feeling this thing. But there was so little to go off of. I think the other person was Buck Angel, but he was often fetishized, and he's in the adult entertainment industry, and so
And I mean the media and movies, they weren't really putting out proper representation either. Sometimes it was a little bit of I don't know, they joked. There was more jokes that went along with that. And yeah, I think we're doing better as far as that, as well as allowing trans people to play trans roles, which is huge too.
for sure, yeah.
Anything else you guys want to talk about as far as what it was like growing up, like when you were still not who you were you able to have that normal childhood where you were able to connect with friends and didn't have the issues with your parents? Was that like a supportive place for you?
Yeah, I would say that I grew up as a tomboy, so gender wasn't really something that I struggled with until I hit puberty. So I was sort of allowed to just be a tomboy and play sports and be outside and get dirty, and that was sort of, that was until I hit like age 12, and suddenly everything started to change. So in terms of childhood, I felt really affirmed in my gender. And it was in high school that I started to really feel the pressure to perform in a certain way. Yeah.
Yeah, I was the exact same. Literally, like when you're a kid and you don't know about these structures, you just live life the way you want to. And I was a tomboy as well. And high school came as a culture shock for many different reasons. And I found myself almost like tripping from one identity to the next. Again, very much performing and trying to like figure out where I'm supposed to fit.
Yeah.
Um, but you figure that out in time. It takes a little bit, but
High school can be a little grueling in those situations,
yeah,
Mhm.
to say the least.
at least. I wanted to ask you guys a couple questions too, without well while we're hearing your story. I had a couple people from just some fans of yours wanting to know some things. Um, there we go. During this pandemic, how has that been for your process? I know, Ian, you do a lot of the writing. Am I
Uh,
right?
yeah, I would say that I offer ideas or riffs or lyrics up or rough song ideas, and then we sort of, as a group, pick them apart and sort of reassemble them, and then they become the sort of fully fleshed idea they are.
Or have you found that you're still motivated in doing a lot of that?
Yes and no. I'm finding, I mean, music for me is a way to sort of, for lack of better terms, to like deal with my demons, and so I do use it as a sort of outlet to sort of process what's going on, and so I'm finding that I'm using that right now. Um, and then there's also a lot to me as well that's sort of wanting to lean into just like resting and taking time and processing everything that's going on in a space that doesn't have to be productive creatively. So I'm
True.
trying to find that balance right now.
There's less demand right now, but sometimes it's hard to keep motivated.
Hmm.
Noah,
Yeah,
what about you?
I have a different perspective, and I didn't really think about this till now, but ever since I joined the band, we've had this like Google Drive of ideas that Ian has uploaded, like recordings and clips of songs or riffs or ideas, and we use that as a central hub to just kind of see what's in progress, things that we can work on. So I've always worked on songs very virtually in that case, which is funny, and it works for COVID as well. So for me, I love going to the Google Drive, seeing what Ian has uploaded, or I'll revisit old recordings, and then I'll write, from my own space separately, and then I'll bring my ideas. So my process is a bit different. It works very well for this year. Um, but yeah, like the year has been interesting. We've had some amazing opportunities to play and perform and rehearse. And there's always material to work on, but yeah, you got to ride with the ebbs and flows of what you're feeling and what else is going on. But we've got some good headway with shows that we've done, new songs in the works, and other projects.
It seems like you have some good support from your fans as well.
Definitely, yeah, which is so amazing. Like it's a huge support.
Speaking of support, I did want to also ask when the two of you finally were able to do what Elliot Page has done and come and say, like, this is who I am. I want to know about the support factor in there. Did you find that your family, I know this could be hard to talk about depending on the situation, but did either of you find that your family was not okay with that, or was it a pretty supportive situation?
Yeah, my coming out with my family has been ebbs and flows, I think is the best way to describe it.
Yes.
I think there's a certain amount of being, you're our family and we're going to be here for you.
Mhm.
And the other side of it is that there might not be complete understanding about what my identity is and how that now fits in. And so it's been an adjustment to sort of oscillate between those two things of being like, this is my family, they clearly love me and support me, and yet it's a road to both of us understanding, what our relationship is now. What does it look like? How has it changed or not changed? And that's been its own process. So at the start when I first came out, it didn't go great. I think my family just needed some time to process. I think there was a certain level of grieving that they were doing of the person that I was and the person they thought I would be, and a certain level of adjustment for them to sort of open up the doors and just let me become the person that I am. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty similar too. When I actually like came out and let everyone know what I was going through, I decided to transition like literally out of fear. Like I was almost like it took so long for me to decide that I wanted to do it because I was so afraid. So when I did, I was just almost forcing myself to do it, which obviously it's exactly the path I need to be on.
Did you
So I
feel you
kind of
had
threw
to push
myself.
yourself and you had to push yourself in that direction to get it done?
I did. I absolutely did. I just was sick of waiting around and doubting myself, and I just did it. So I kind of threw myself into my own transition, and then with that, I also threw my family into it. And I had a really good reception, and I had some good support at the beginning. But I think when things kind of start to get real and you start to face the you know differences or whatever, like what Ian said, there is a certain level of grieving that does happen, and that's like totally normal and healthy. But it did just take a little bit of time for them to understand that this was the right path to be on, and this is what I needed. So once they kind of understood that this was what I needed, and I'm happy and I'm living life to my best, that's when things got a lot better.
And I'm sure they're happier for both of you now that they see you like thriving instead of just surviving in who you were.
Totally.
Definitely.
Yeah. I had a chat with my mom actually about, that she was admitting to me that she was afraid for me mostly, that it wasn't necessarily about her not wanting me to transition or anything like that, but ultimately she was afraid that the world would treat me differently because I was trans and would treat me differently when I medically transitioned. And so as soon as she started seeing the changes that being on hormone replacement therapy offered me, it was quite a real, in front of her face, physical representation of the fact that I was transitioning, that my appearance was changing, that my identity was shifting, and that the world might not be open to that. So there was grieving, yes, like Noah was talking about, but I also just think that like there's just a fear because your parents and your family just want you to be good and they want you to be safe, and there's a sort of them wanting to protect you if they can, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, when I had a couple parents come out to the one I did with Mason Coates, they just loved the fact that they saw that there was thriving going on and it wasn't a full struggle because their child, you know, is different. Because a lot of parents do worry, and there's got to be grief. You know, if someone loses a daughter, they look at it that way. But there are some people that just look at it like I'm gaining a son or I'm gaining a happy child who is in their right body. I have so much respect for the two of you and everyone that is able to stand up in their truth. And you're going, technically, you also go through a second puberty in some
Yes.
terms, right?
Yes, you do.
And that's something that parents may be not used to either. But it sounds like the two of you didn't do too bad in the parent department.
No, didn't do too bad.
Yeah, it's a learning experience for everybody. It was new for me, it was new for them. So you all just kind of grow through it
It
together.
is a growth process.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. And that everyone has their own like adjustment period, so you just kind of what I found out is you just need people to do their own thing at their own time and they come around. Everyone's process is different.
And if they don't come around, not everybody has to stay in your life. I try to tell people that some people say, my uncle will never love me. Well, then your uncle can go hang out by himself because there's a lot of people that you don't have to please everybody. It really, at the end of the day, is more about you and your life. So, very proud that you're doing that. And I love that anybody that's watching, just listen to these stories because you aren't alone. You can do whatever you want. You can be in a kick butt band. You can, I know hard workers, not only in the band, but it's nice to see that. I think a lot of people want to see that contributing member of society because of the stigma that goes along with other people that maybe didn't do as well. Unfortunately, bad news tends to make the news a little more often, but I love highlighting people that are doing well in the community.
Yeah, that's one thing I've actually noticed in the media is how, the queer storyline is always it's negative, it's sad, there's loss, there's this and that, but like that's not the case, but we're constantly painted as that. Yes, there's a lot of violence towards our community and things like that, but we are just regular folks just doing the thing. And you know, I think people maybe just kind of forget that. There's a lot of different stigmas, but that's a huge one,
That's
definitely.
a huge one. It is. Um, I believe that some people just pay attention to the bad news because that's just what's more important to them and that's what sells. But I really do wish that the media would shine a better light on the trans individuals and just people in general in the queer community. I wish there was brighter lights painted on them. It wouldn't Parents wouldn't be as scared when they find out that their son wants to take blockers. They wouldn't be as terrified if their daughter says, hey, like, I don't think I am who I am, if the media would shine a better light. So I hold them a little responsible for the pictures that they paint of the queer community.
Totally. And I think it's on purpose too, right? Like news outlets show the violence and the hardships because I think there's a certain element of society that is trying to keep trans and queer folks in the closet, right? Is trying to stifle people from living as their authentic selves because I firmly believe that like trans folks offer many people a way forward, right? They supersede so many categories, so many boxes that society tries to put us in. And if you actually shine a light on the fact that that's possible, there's going to be a lot of systems that end up tumbling because of that, right? So it's on purpose, but I agree that we need representation that shows trans people living, loving, thriving, full of joy, going after their dreams, being in committed, healthy partnerships, having families, whatever that looks like. It's so important.
Yeah,
I'm just
I
having the two of you share your journey is I hope makes a big difference because there are going to be people that are watching, whether it be parents or somebody who's getting ready to transition. We need to shine these lights.
Hmm.
definitely, definitely.
What do the two of you think about the possibility of having children one day?
Oh,
I
God.
know you're both super young. You're both young, and it's probably not something that's on the forefront of your mind, but I've met the two of you in person, and you're both just adorable, and I think that you would make great fathers.
Oh,
But
thank
that's a whole other story.
Yeah, I I have always had a very paternal instinct. I've always loved babies and kids. I've always known that I was going to be a parent. When that happens, I don't know, but I'm certainly open to the idea and hope it does happen one day. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I haven't given it too much thought, to be honest.
No. Well, the 10-year reunion show, we'll have you on with the family.
There you go.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm
I
very
know
excited.
Noah, you just recently got engaged.
I did. Yay.
Are
Feel like
you
a
allowed to shine a little light on that?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been with my partner for 3 years, and I'm very lucky to be in a really rich, beautiful queer relationship with my partner who is non-binary. And I like what Ian was touching on about how, trans people or queer people can offer, this different lifestyle and can show you that life can be different because, with being with my partner, Kenzie, and also transitioning, it has deconstructed a lot of walls I built up, about fitting into a box or being gay or straight. Like, I love identifying as queer. I am pansexual. I enjoy, like, people. Like, this is just, I feel where I was supposed to always be. And it took me like working on myself to break down everything else. So now my partner and I just enjoy this beautiful life where we understand each other. We're on the same page. Yeah. So I proposed to them earlier this summer and we're going to get married next year. And
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah. So it's just been really great. Yeah.
That's good. I
Yeah.
think in the cis community, and I'm not speaking for all cis people, but I think the ones that may be against the trans community don't want you guys to succeed. They want to see the regular mother, father, kid. Like, they don't want kids and everyone knowing that this is a possibility. Like, not only is it a possibility, it's a lifestyle and it works and you're thriving and your walls are down. Where if you had to put yourself into a box and never come out as trans and stay a lesbian, that would have never happened. You opened so many doors and windows for not only you, but everyone watching. So I really, really respect that.
Thank you. Like I was saying a bit earlier, I think we were talking before this, community is the common denominator around coming out and everyone's coming out stories. Like, you need someone to lean on or, you find hope somewhere. And I think that's something that us three also have in common. Yeah.
I do. I believe, I just think when it comes to community, there's different definitions of the types of community, but I believe the type of community that I want to build and I want to see help build is the one that it doesn't matter what letter you are on the LGBTQ plus 2 SIA. It doesn't matter who you are. Like, we are all equal people and we need to show love. Like, it doesn't matter what journey people are on. It's just, we got to show love to people and let people be who they are.
Totally.
Yeah. Do you find that there is a good trans community in this region? Non-binary trans, do you find that there, or do you believe it's just more lumped into one of everything?
I mean, Niagara's a small-ish city, right? Like, I think we're classified as a medium-sized city. Um, and so me finding other trans folks has actually been quite difficult. It hasn't actually been until the last, I would say, maybe couple of years that I've started to find other trans people in community here. Um, it's not to say that we're not here. Uh, so I don't really know why that is. Maybe there's not. I mean, there's a few organizations now that center around like trans resources, trans healthcare, trans sort of community spaces, but that wasn't really around. I want to say like even when I came out, which was like 6 years ago or something. So
Yeah, I would
it's
say in the
changed.
last couple of years.
Yeah, it's changing, but it's been tough to find community here. Even when I lived in Toronto for a few years, and it was still difficult to find people. Um, I think a lot of the LGBT community is often centered towards like white cisgender gay males, and so anybody that exists outside of that identity that doesn't have that privilege, oftentimes they don't get the spaces, they don't get the community spaces, they don't get the supports, and so um, yeah, like you were saying about how you want a queer community, LGBTQIA2S plus community that's kind and supportive of each other. I think it also takes folks that have a lot of privilege saying, I have this power, I have this privilege, I'm going to use it to leverage other people that might not have that.
And that's why I started doing what I do. I find, I don't know if the two of you would agree with this, but I find that there is somewhat a disconnect, almost segregated parts of the community where the trans people don't feel comfortable with certain parts of people in the community, and then other people in the community don't necessarily feel supportive or comfortable with trans people. And that's a barrier that I have largely been trying to break down, because we're all equal. Like, no cliques. Like, we are all a community, and that's how it has to be.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Yeah, like as far as community around Niagara, honestly, like the events that you put on and the initiatives that you have taken in the past couple of years, that has brought me a lot more sense of community. Just having, not just queer events, but also like trans specific events,
Open to everyone. I feel like that's like the segregating is just not, it doesn't work. Didn't work years ago, and it doesn't work now.
yeah, exactly. Well, the one thing that Niagara has that is tremendous and has been a great resource for me, and why I think it makes the region good and supportive in some ways, is Quest.
Yes.
That health center is amazing, and you don't find
Quest is
that.
amazing.
You sometimes don't even find that in bigger cities. Like I know a lot of folks coming from Toronto to come down to like St. Catharines,
Hamilton,
just
Toronto
have
to come
access
here.
to care. So like that's been a rock through my
Yeah, I have
entire.
a lot of respect for Quest for sure. I'm glad
Yeah,
we mentioned them. They're a great
yeah,
organization.
definitely.
Is there anything else that the two of you wanted to share about your stories that you didn't get a chance to?
I just want to say that identity shifts and evolves over time. Um, I think my path has been similar to Noah in that when I started to transition, I had to unpack a lot of what I had understood about masculinity and manhood and where I fit in that and does it fit or does it not, and so my identity still to this day I think is open to changing and shifting as
And
I
evolving.
do. And so is my sexuality, and that has certainly, I identify as pansexual as well, and that has certainly changed over the years. And so I think people just need to um, just be open to the fact that your identity is going to shift and change and evolve, and that that's a beautiful thing, and just to embrace that.
Yeah, the fluidity there. I don't believe that we are just one thing. I believe that we learn and grow. I always identify as queer because that's just where I feel that I fit in. I don't know. What about you,
Yeah,
Noah?
I really resonate on, being very fluid and you are continuously discovering yourself. I did it the first time I came out, I did it the second time I came out, and I'm still doing it. With deconstructing everything and just figuring things out, I have become a lot more fluid. Even like, I know we touched on kids and stuff, but like, there's so many ways that a trans man can have children. Trans men can get pregnant, and it's a beautiful thing. Or there's like IVF and things like
The
that.
options are great now. The options are amazing. Like with my girlfriend, we want to have a child one day, and it's just great that those options are out there and that we're seeing other women thrive with families. And I think it's really important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I think, yeah, a lot about coming out and just living your life is, and I think what a lot of people need to do is like just always discover yourself and be open to new things, because it can just enrich your life in ways you never imagined, right?
Open your mind, because once you close it, you stop growing. There's
Uh,
no way to grow if you close your mind. You got to keep it open, because sometimes I meet individuals and I think I know everything about myself, and that person brings something out in me that I didn't know. And I love things like that. All right, I have a couple more questions about the band, and then we're going to have Ian play us. We're going to do a couple songs.
Yeah. How much time do you think that we'll have for some tunes?
I'm going to ask a couple questions, and then I was going to give you probably uh, 15, 20 minutes to play some music.
Perfect. That's great.
Perfect. Um, how did the band come up with the sound? Was this all three of you loved the sound, or did you all bring something different to the table?
That's a good question. I, I feel like I live two extremes. I'm either like acoustic folk singer songwriter, or I'm like grungy, punky, classic rock inspired, emo influenced sort
Love
of
it.
stuff. So I actually wrote a lot of the Saint Stone stuff on acoustic guitar, and some of it was a lot more like folky and sad sounding. And then I picked up the tempo. I threw electric guitar on it and some drums, and figured out, how would this sound as a rock song. And so
Super indie. It has a super indie sound when you guys pick it up, for sure.
totally, yeah. So I feel like Liren, who's my sibling, her and I grew up in the same house, and so we have a lot of the same foundational bands. We grew up on a lot of classic rock, on like Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, the Stones, like all of the sort of like pillars that people come to know and relate to classic rock. And then we
Yes.
sort of went off in our own musical journeys and did our own thing. And Liren was playing in some like metal post-hardcore bands, and I was playing in like funky bluesy bands, and then we sort of reconvened, and then we had this whole sort of like plethora of genres and inspirations to pull from. So I think that foundation was really helpful and let us start to write some stuff. And then we brought Noah into the fold. I knew that Noah's I'll let Noah speak about it, but I know that
Yeah.
Noah's inspirations were quite similar to ours, and so he just sort of fit in there nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So from my perspective, Lear and Ian like founded this band. They started writing together when they, lived in the area, and they just started to collaborate. So I feel like the sound, like it's not like we consciously came up with it. It just was very organic, and that's just what happened, which is a beautiful thing. So when I kind of hopped in, yeah, I have very similar musical taste and influences. Um, and I was just able to blend in really well. Thankfully, they like me and they like my bass.
Yeah, the sound is really good. I find it really unique, and I know other people do. It's really good.
Well, what's so funny is that I kind of like not strong armed my way into the band, but I saw Ian play. I don't know if this was your event, but there was a transgender day of
Visibility.
visibility.
That would have been, I think, did Colleen do that? That was the year before.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
would have been the year before.
Yeah, so I was asked to perform, and I was like, nah. But I was like, I know my buddy Ian, like he's really, really good. So I got him linked up with that gig, and I saw him play our song Live Right acoustically. And I was like, what is this? I have to be a part of it.
I
So I
should
was
be
like,
up there.
yeah, I tracked him down, and I was like, I need to be in your band. Like, did you write that song? I love it. I have to be a part of it. And just so happened that they needed a bassist. That's kind of the only thing that was missing. So that was perfect.
I love it. Another question I have is your band represents the queer trans community, which is, in my opinion, very underrepresented. In this area, especially, I'm sure that there's, you go to Toronto, you might be able to find something a little different. But in this area, you guys are really, to me, it. I mean, I follow the music a lot. What does that mean to you to be representing that community and being kind of the people that, that 12-year-old boy who's thinking about transitioning, or girl or non-binary, like they look at you and your songs and your lyrics?
Yeah, I mean, I like we've been talking, representation is so important. And when I was growing up, obviously didn't see any trans masculine people in music. Really, the only person that I saw that was sort of some sort of representation of the possibility of doing it was Lucas Silveira, who fronted
Yes.
the band The Clicks. And and I've been following his career, and he went through a lot of stuff in the music industry, and
And he
a
still
lot
is. I was lucky enough to interview him last year. Like he's really talented.
was very talented, yeah. And so I saw him perform in Toronto a few times and chatted with him, and he went through it when he came out. And his record label, like one of his covers, he'd had top surgery recently, and his scars were showing. And the cover of the album was supposed to be him shirtless in a boxing ring, and him all bloody and dirty. And the record label didn't tell him, but removed that photo and just put this generic sort of picture on his album cover because they couldn't deal with the fact that there was a transmasculine person showing their scars in the front of it. So I'm aware of that going into the music industry, that we're underrepresented, and so it feels in some ways like an uphill battle. But I don't know. I feel a very I feel very good about having this opportunity. I have to work really hard. We all have to work really hard at creating space for ourselves. The music industry is very cis hetero white dude, and so there's a lot of barriers to anybody that identifies outside of that. Um, so yeah, if people are looking at our music and they feel inspired by it and they see us doing the thing and think that they can do that as well, then that's awesome.
Inspiration's huge. I think someone like Lucas was a pioneer and he kind of went through the things first. I think there's a lot more acceptance. And I would hope that if that you were to get picked up by a company, that that wouldn't be the issue now. I think we're a little different now, but he did pioneer a lot of that. What
Sure.
about you, Noah?
Yeah, I think just kind of going back to the sense of community and just seeing, other trans folks, and having that hope and that influence, is huge. And, much like I did with Ian, just helping someone along, to discover something within themselves, or feel inspired or empowered. I love that our music does that. I've had
Gets you right
folks
there.
come up,
Yes.
yeah, right
Yeah.
in the feels. I've had folks come up to us after our shows and just like gush about that kind of stuff, or just say like, I really appreciate you and your visibility. And even people like on Instagram, reaching out and just saying like, I've never seen this before, like, this is amazing. Like I had someone reach out because he's like, I've never seen a trans man be like a bassist, and I want to play bass, and I
I
want
love
to be
that.
you, like you just give people like this inspiration that's very special. So I just think that sense of community and inspiration is, it's a privilege that we can do this.
It is a privilege. And I love that you recognize that because there are going to be people that are very, very open to maybe starting their own journey because of that. All right, without further ado, we've done some questions, we've heard some stories. Let's hear some music.
Amazing. All right.
Saint Stone, everybody. We're going to have Ian this time, but you will see all of them soon performing.
Once we're able to convene in a venue and get all sweaty and yell in each other's ears again, I really miss that. All right, I'm gonna be backed up by my squeaky chair here. I'm gonna play a few songs. This first song is, let's see, let's do this one here. This song is called Always Think of You.
Let it fall victim to the wind. Let it fly free from your hands. I wanted me, and I'll always think of you.
So as Noah was saying, this is the song that he heard at an acoustic show. This song is about me sort of reckoning with a lot of the feelings I was having in the beginning of my transition. And I had been really avoiding writing about it and having to talk about it, and having to admit that sometimes, it was joyous and sometimes it wasn't. And this song is about that. And it's about, even if the times are not joyous, and even if they feel hard, and even if there are folks that don't support who you are, that all you can do is live authentically and live right by you. So this song is called Live Right.
Do some days feel like you want to fly? Other days feel like you want to die. You don't really know the reason why you're caught in between. Do you move like you want to? Take up the space that you know is true. True to yourself, but not too much, 'cause you've seen too many men do that shit before. And do you think too much too? Do you think till you're blue? Blue in the face and feel like no one is listening to you. Do you feel like you weren't made for this world, or even for these days today? Maybe you should have been born and raised at a different time or in a different place. Do you find some people catch your eye, and you know that at another time, oh, they kill you for just being alive? Doesn't that shit haunt you? Do you think too much too? Do you speak till you're blue? Blue in the face and feel like no one is listening to you. Oh, I know I do. You might be doing wrong in someone's eyes, but all you can do is try to live right. You might be doing wrong in someone's eyes, but all you can do is try to live right. You might be doing wrong in someone's eyes, but all you can do is try to live right. You might be doing wrong in someone's eyes. all you can do is try to live right. This song is called My Time Is Wasted on You. I want you to be my sunshine. But I betray myself and lie awake as you sleep at night. I want you to be be my sweetheart. But all I have for you is nothing but my skin in the dark. My, all my time is wasted on you. I think if I can make you, just make you love me, I could prove to others they are wrong, prove to them I'm worthy. I need a new distraction, someone to soothe me. We'll mess this up just like our parents did, betray ourselves and now we're lonely. All my time is wasted on you. My all your time is wasted on me too. Everything is a choice, we know and yet we choose this. We forget our own voice, 'cause what if we wake up lonely? We fight all the time, I think I'm always right, I know you're always crying and I don't give a shit. We lose track of time, no energy to fight, I never hold you at night and I stop giving a shit. All my time is wasted on you. My, all your time is wasted on me too. And I wasted it on you. And I wasted on you. Yeah, I wasted on you. Yeah, I wasted on you. Oh, yeah, I wasted on you. Yeah, I wasted on you. Yeah, I wasted on you.
Those three songs were incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just to let everybody know, Noah was going to be playing his bass. He's the bass player, but unfortunately, technical difficulties did not allow for that. But you will, I promise, be seeing them on some big stages. So stay tuned. Thank you guys so much for doing this. I really, really am excited for more people to see this. I know that it's going to get shared a lot and it'll be on YouTube as well. So thank you very much. Hi, Christine. Welcome back.
Hi guys, I'm back.
Hello.
I just wanted to say thank you so much, Ian, for sharing your beautiful talents with us. Those songs were fantastic. I can't wait till COVID is over so I can come to one of Saint Stone's shows.
Yes.
To both Ian and Noah, thank you so much for coming and sharing your truth, sharing your coming out stories with us. I think these conversations, as I said at the beginning, are so important for the LGBTQ plus community and straight community alike, to be a part of these conversations and to hear them. Falynn, as usual, my star, thank you for organizing these
Thank you.
fantastic
It
series.
is literally one of the best things I've ever done in my life is putting these shows together with you. So
Oh my goodness.
also I want to send a shout out to Liren. She isn't here. There is 3 members to the band. So Liren is not here. She is the drummer. But like I said, you'll be seeing this group everywhere. I don't know when, but it will happen. Take care, guys. That's all we have for tonight, and I'm going to hand it over to Christine. Thank you guys for staying here and watching. Uh, it went a full hour, and I think it was totally meant to. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone from the Niagara Falls History Museum who came out tonight, either on Zoom or Facebook Live. If you loved this video and were like, oh man, I wish my best friend or my mom or my gardener or whatever would have seen this, it will be up on our YouTube page and available on Facebook. So tell them they can go watch it to their heart's content over and over again. So thank you, everyone, for joining us here at Not the Museum Thursday night. And we will see you next Thursday. Have a great one, guys.
Bye, guys. Take care.